Hey guys, Gaming Engineer here. This is a bit of a different video today. We're just reviewing a video sent to me by Dutch, or McLaren JK, of Sir Puncelot. Momo's 91, Momos or Momus or however you want to say it, some French guy that's a bit of a cunt, and his race etiquette basically. So I was fortunate enough to be sent this by McLaren JK, or Dutch, if you will, about having run into Momos in his lobby, in their lobby, and the antics that he caused. So I thought I'd review it, just give my spin on things. I've watched a few replays now of him. Other people have had trouble, so this is not an isolated incident. He's just a cunt. I have no idea what's wrong with him. He might have, you know, some issues with anger, I guess. But he really doesn't take kindly to being passed. Or, on the flip side of that, even when he makes mistakes, he gets upset and he takes out on other people. Now, I've been upset. I've been in that position where you get frustrated with someone or yourself, but you never ever take it out on the other cars. Well, that's what I always thought anyway. So, Momos or Momus, or however he wants to be called, seems to have a different approach, which is just punt everyone you can, basically, and that earned him a review. So the first few laps, he's actually quite clean. Watching this at the start, I thought everyone else might have been over-exaggerating. I didn't think he was that bad. So first, like 4 laps, he's actually pretty good. He makes a few mistakes. He's a bit slow through the Jets chicane on the first lap, as anyone would be. You're just super cautious, and that gets him tangled up in a few people, unfortunately. But again, there was nothing to argue about. I'd say nothing serious. I think he handled himself well. He gets swarmed here a little bit, unfortunately, but again, it happens. It's early in the lap. It's 13 laps. You know, you've got 12 left to make this up. The beautiful Calsonic livery, we don't see the last of it, thank goodness. It's just stunning. But he actually features a little bit in Momus's anger management class. But the reason he earned the nickname Sir Puncelot from me anyway, or Sir Puncelot, whichever one you want to call him, is for the things he does in lap 5, I believe, lap 5 onwards till about lap 10. So his anger management maybe isn't the best for about 5 laps, pretty short, pretty brief, probably like a 6 life. But he does a lot of damage, unfortunately, in those 5 or so laps. This incident here gives him a little bit of a tap now. I've always found that a bit 50-50. It's a bit dicey. You're playing with chance, basically. With the ghost, you never know if they're going to ghost longer or they could ghost shorter. Now, I've always run it, you anticipate they're going to go shorter, so you always avoid them. This cunt seems to think he can get through him, gives him a little bit of a love tap, and obviously had to back out of it. Falcon gets ahead, but he knew who he was dealing with, so I think he just gave up the position in a hopes to not tangle with this cunt, just because there's just no point. You're going to ruin 2 people's races, and he's known to be dangerous, so you'd rather give him the place, watch him fuck up, and then just sneak on by. The one thing I want to note is Calsonic and the 2 other GTRs ahead, the Motul GTRs. If I was them, if I was in their position knowing who was behind me, I would have tried to make a gap. That's personally what I would have tried to do. He's such a loose cannon, you do not want him behind you in any form, and you'll see why later on in the video. I think he forgot what brake pads are, or the brakes, you know, that pedal that you meant to push to slow down. I'm pretty sure he didn't want to use it in a fear of having to replace the brake pads, just because of how little time he showed to stop. You know, he blatantly pushed people off the track and hit them just to get a position back, or just to make a point, or just to vent some frustration. So it did strike me as odd that he refused to use the brake. I think if he braked, and I could have said, look, you know, he tried, he locked up, no traction control, no ABS, he's obviously got ABS on, but if he had no ABS, you know, these things happen. But no, he makes an obvious point to ram people. So Ramsalot's another nickname I just came up with, thank you very much. But yeah, no, so he closes the door pretty aggressively. Apparently when you have the racing line, you can do whatever you want, as I've been told. Once you've bought that racing line, you own it, you don't have to give it up, and you can do basically anything. So he had the racing line there, he was ahead into the apex, but closing the door that severely, with someone on the inside making contact, I think that's a bit rude. That's a bit on the nose there, regardless whether you walk the racing line or not. So that was the start. We'll say that was maybe the beginning of his frustration. The peak comes, I think, on lap 5, when, I don't want to ruin it, but a certain person does something that has no effect on his race in terms of them causing him to get the penalty. He did it to himself. So if anything, he should be angry at himself, take a hard look, and then sort that out. But he decided once he got the penalty to take it out on everyone else. Now that's unfair, because you're ruining everyone else's race. Now these guys are probably in there for the DR or SR, try to build it back up, maybe before a race or something like that. Now you have a cunt like this ruining someone's race, well, what's the point? You know, and this is one of the few times I'll ever say GT probably got the algorithm right on this cunt. On Momo's, I think they nailed it. They penalized him for everything that he did wrong, blatantly. Which is a first, you know. Congratulations, GT, you managed it, you did well, you got one algorithm right out of however many races there've been in the last 3 years of FIA. So, good on you, you're improving. Let's just hope GT7's not as slow of an improvement, because I really think this penalty system's a joke, but, you know, I digress there. So, back to Momo's, he's doing well so far, lap 4. We have a few people that have had tussles with him, but nothing too serious. Just a couple of door bangs, trading some paint, but again, you know, these things happen. As long as you're sort of polite about it, you know, I don't think there's a problem with it. I've had people rub their doors with me in the races, and they've never forced a maneuver, they've never pit maneuvered me, they've forced me off the track, so you let it go. But then you get cunts that actually force you off the track, like Razor Eagle, who did to me down the straight on Monza, who hit me 17 times, I think we did. You know, that to me is just blatantly rude. So, yeah, I don't think that's called for. Now, a little interesting clip here. The two cars in front, the yellow and blue. Keep an eye on him, because he comes out of nowhere, and he just made me laugh. He loses it just going off that curb, and that is, I found that hilarious in spite of what was happening, just because of Momo's being such a cunt. That was a little bit of a reprieve, just some humor there. I felt bad for him. He was probably pissed at himself, but he was probably grateful that he didn't have to tussle with Momo's and get pushed off that way. But again, you know, these guys are racing pretty hard, no traction control and things like that, so easily done. Unfortunately for most here, the no traction control did, I could say, let them down, having dealt with Momo's. If they had traction control on, maybe he couldn't have punted them as hard, or, you know, maybe they could have recovered as quicker. But, you know, these guys are pros, they're really good. So obviously they have the skills to back it up, but when you get a cunt like this, it's absolutely frustrating. So I do feel bad for these guys, but unfortunately, having seen what he's like in other races, and obviously knowing the name that he comes with, I would have expected it, put it that way. So there's a bit of a trade-off. Getting into the lobby with him, not the best idea, but you don't have a choice, really. You don't know who your partner is. So we're coming up to the incidences now. Unfortunately, you know, they hit pretty hard and fast, and it all kicks off at the end of this lap, basically. Unfortunately. So once we get into it, it'll be pretty quick. I'll try and talk you through what I think is happening in each of the incidences, but he just loses the plot. He actually gets just very aggressive, very upset, and he takes that on everyone else. So it's a bit unfortunate, but stay with it, and I'll be back once the incidences happen. Thanks, guys. So we're riding on board with Momo's, with McLaren JK in front, and as you can see, he's a super solid racer, Dutch. For someone so young, honestly he's incredible. He's very talented, and once he gets some hair down there on his balls, he'll be pretty incredible. But for now, we're just watching this amazing kid driving basically for his life with Momo's behind him, and unfortunately, this is where the incident happens. Now, I've always been told once you start braking, that's where you stay in that position. You don't switch, because as you see there, McLaren's already lined up his turn-in point, and Momo's just switches down the inside after being on the brakes, you know, choosing his position, and that forces McLaren JK or Dutch to have to swerve left and then back right to make the corner. Now that's how he picks up the penalty, Momo's, and I think it's fair. I don't believe you can just switch, dive down the inside after being on the extreme left while under braking into the apex. It doesn't work. No matter what anyone tells you, whoever has bought the racing etiquette handbook and spews it out to you, well, they can get fucked, because basically that's wrong. And it's more so being respectful. It's not so much, hey, I know everything because I'm the best and here's the rules. It's more so, I'm not going to try and piss people off because they'll punt me. Now this cunt, Momo's, has gotten upset, clearly. And unfortunately, Jim has to pay the price. Now, it really sucks. I'm alluding to what's going to happen, but I feel so sorry for him because he gets taken out really early on for no reason other than to be in front of Momo's. So there we go, light on the brakes, gives him a tap, and instantly another penalty. So this cunt is amazing. He should have a record for going from one penalty to the other so quickly. I'm amazed. I didn't see that coming. But Sir Cuncelot is just... He is a weapon. He is. So we see he's picked up another 2-second penalty just for punting Jim into that corner for no reason. You know, there was no need for it, and he thinks better of it. Jim's like, fuck that. I'm not going to get into another tussle with him. Brakes, goes wide, lets him by. Smart move. Why? Because Momo's has got the penalty. The last thing you want is to be in front of him while he's trying to clear that penalty, because he's gonna ram the fuck out of you. So there's no point. So Jim thought better of it. Pull back. Let Momo serve his 2-second penalty and just hang with him. And then once he serves it, you can go through his ghost and keep moving. Now that's a smart move for me personally. With someone like this, with Momo's being such an absolute dick, let him serve the penalty, and then once you go through his ghost, once he's serving the penalty, just make as much distance as you can, because honestly, it's not worth racing someone like this. So you'll see, there he goes, takes off. He actually gets swarmed a little bit. Everyone sees an opportunity to get away from this cunt, and unfortunately, Stiggy Boy, man, he pays the price. So this is at almost the height of his frustration, Momo's frustration. So you see, he goes left, tries to do a pit maneuver, swings out right, pretty wide, misses it. Okay, he thinks, nah, fuck you, I got another one coming, light on the brakes, and just aims it right to his rear quarter panel, puts him in the wall. Now that's another penalty, and rightly so, but to me, personally, it should be more than 4 seconds. For him to do what he did on purpose is a bit ridiculous, because now you've just ruined his race, Sticky Boy's race. So I think 4 seconds is a bit light, maybe 10 seconds or more, or even a DNF, but there's more coming. Now, the Lexus is my favorite part. This guy took no shit from Momo's, and I love that. I absolutely adore that, because he's like, nah, fuck you. Then they were like, nah, fuck you. Perfect. Because Momo's literally tried to force him off track multiple times, and he was not having a bar of it. Now, I own a Lexus. Hey, go Lexus represent. Just goes to show you we're no pushover. Nah, I'm joking. We probably are. But he didn't take it lying down, and I love that, because when you're dealing with someone like this, such an absolute cunt, you just got to give as good as you're going to get, because you're going to get fucked over anyway. That's just the way I see it. You got to try and make the best out of a shit situation. So Momo's got pushed off. He wasn't having a bar of it, and look what he does. He just puts him straight into the wall. He puts himself into the wall, which is fine. You can do whatever you want. Don't take someone else out with you. Just because you've got the penalty doesn't mean you can be a cunt. So, yeah, I didn't agree with that, but 5 seconds, still light, still way too light for what he did. But unfortunately, he's ruined a lot of people's races, and I just think that's not fair. So, towards the end of this race, lap 10, 11, 12, 13, he calms down. It's as if the anger has subsided, he's done all his penalties, he's got all the rage out, and now he's just back to sort of trying to be clean with his racing. Now, Towards the end of this, I didn't pick this up. I was gratefully pointed out this little fact by Hamish, or Nismo Oz JP, whichever one you want to know. He tried to pit maneuver the Calsonic GTR, the one, you know, the livery I said I love, that I pointed out at the start of the race. He actually tried to pit maneuver him at the last corner on the last lap, heading down to the main straight to the finish line. He actually tried to pit maneuver him again. So clearly he didn't learn his lesson, but at the same time it might just be who he is, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but this just might be the cunt he is. It just might be in his DNA to just be an absolute tosser and just ruin people's races. So this is the review of Momo's. Hopefully it's been entertaining. I'll leave you with the few laps remaining, and then I'll touch upon the pit maneuver towards the end there. But anyway, enjoy Momo's. Here's some clean racing for you. So you can see he's actually a good racer, just an absolute blindingly big cunt. Anyway, enjoy, guys. Hey guys, hooray, we made it to the last lap, final few corners, we've survived. Momo's hasn't killed anyone just yet, because he's such a fucking cunt. So here we go, I just want to touch upon the pit maneuver attempt at the beautiful Calsonic GTR. There you go, blue, red, white, absolutely stunning. Now you'll see Momo's is on the left-hand side, towards the end of this lap, towards the finish line. Goes right and then severe left. And that was the honest attempt at trying to take him out. Now, that wasn't fair because he would have picked up a position, ruined the Calsonic's race for no point other than to gain a position for him being a cunt. And I just don't think that's right. And this little video coming up here in lap 1 explains why I think he felt a bit aggrieved with the Calsonic GTR. Now, he was slow through the chicane, as some people would be, just being cautious, and he gets swallowed up. He's done a lot of swallowing, I'm very sure, judging by how he drives, but he gets swallowed up by these three. Calsonic comes scooting by, sees the door open, puts it down the inside. Now, that's a fair move, very clean. No one was bumped, nothing was rubbed or anything like that. A little bit of contact there from Momo's, but that's expected seeing as what a cunt he is. But again, the Calsonic didn't do anything wrong. All he did was make a move when you left the door open. Now, if you're slow, I'm under the impression if you're slow, regardless of what I've been told by these professional racing drivers, if you're slow, move over. Let these people go and you can catch them up when they make a mistake, or if you get the tow, you can go past them. Now, that's always my understanding. Clearly, Momo's works on a different level to everyone else because he's probably not human. And unfortunately, here's the contact with the Ghost. He should have erred on the side of caution. Gave him a little bit of love tap, no penalty, nothing wrong. Here we have the Falcon down the inside, and he aggressively closes the door, makes contact. Now, I don't think that's fair, because the Falcon comes back at him and goes, hey, fuck you, you shouldn't have done that. I think that was pretty rude. Whether you were ahead or not, don't close the door so severely, knowing that there's a car there. I think that was pretty stupid of him, and very aggressive. Here we have my favorite clip of the yellow and blue GTR just absolutely losing it, and I'm sure he was a lot more pleased that he lost it rather than Momo's taking him out. So here's the onboard of this. He just gets on the curve, loses control. Unfortunately, he just puts it in the wall, paints his beautiful GTR in grey and orange, barrier paint, and it's an honest mistake. It's happened to me more than once. Here's the incident with Dutch, and now this is what spirals everything out of control. This is where he loses. He's on the brakes, switches to the inside, which he shouldn't do, makes contact. Dutch had to swerve out the way. It was a dive bomb. No matter how you want to spin it, it was a fucking dive bomb. I could care less whether you own the Apex, whether someone bought it for you, whether the company paid for it. It doesn't matter. You moved under braking, which you should never do. Now, I don't know what happened to Dutch. I'm really not sure what you did here. But what the fuck was that? So, I'm sorry, but I had to include it because that was hilarious. Here we have Jim, and I feel so bad for him because he just bore the anger of Momo's for just being an absolute child. It's so unfortunate that he had to survive that. Here we have the pit maneuver, severe pit maneuver attempt. Puts it into the wall, ruins his own race, but no, wait, there's more. I know we touched upon this, but here we go, let's watch it again. Boom, bombs away, puts it into his rear quarter panel, and just puts him in the wall. So it's unfortunate, but this is the cunt you're dealing with. You know, this is what I'm trying to explain. There's no politeness, there's no mannerism. I could give a shit about the racing line. You're just being an absolute blatant cunt. That's your nickname from now on. From now on, you should be known as the cunt, or Sapunsalot, Sakunsalot, or just an absolute dick. So here we have the Lexus. I love the battle with the Lexus because he gave as good as he got, and I think it's fair play to him. They both tussled. Look, you can say it was innocent at the start, but Momo's just took it to a whole nother level and made it personal, and he just ruined both their races. So, at the end of the day, was that fair? No, I don't think so. He was just being an absolute child, got angry, saw red, there we go, boom. Punts him and ruins both their races. So, this was my review of Momo's The Cunt, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, guys. Bye.